Sarah had always been excited about college life. Excitement of leaving home, meeting new people, and the freedom that came with living in the dorms was everything she had dreamed of. Her dorm room, though old and cramped, felt like her own little world. At first it was just the usual sounds of college life. Hallways full of laughter, doors opening and closing, footsteps in the distance. But it didn't take long before Sarah started feeling like something wasn't quite right. The first night she heard it, she tried to shake it off. But the second night, the footsteps were there again. And this time, they didn't stop at her door. They moved in a slow, deliberate pattern, pacing back and forth. Almost as if someone was waiting for her to open the door. The pacing continued each night. Sarah didn't know if it was someone trying to prank her, or if she was just being paranoid. But one night, as she lay in bed, wide awake, the footsteps stopped. She could feel the silence closing in around her. It was then that the door handle turned, slowly, deliberately, as if someone was trying to get in. Her heart pounded in her chest as she held her breath. The door creaked, but it didn't open. The handle twisted again as if testing the lock. The door rattled slightly as something or someone tried to push through. And then, nothing. The sound of footsteps slowly faded away into the distance. That night, Sarah tried to sleep, but every creak of the building, every shift in the walls made her jump. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. The feeling wasn't just in her mind, it was real, and it was getting worse. The following nights were a blur of unease. The pacing continued, but now Sarah began to notice something even stranger. Every time she looked toward her door, she could see the faint outline of a shadow under the crack, a silhouette, just standing there, watching. One night, Sarah decided she had enough. She could no longer ignore it. She opened the door slowly, her heart racing, only to find nothing. The hallway was empty, but there on the floor was a small folded piece of paper. She picked it up, her hands trembling as she unfolded it. It was simple, handwritten. "I'm watching you." There was no signature, no explanation, just those words. She froze. Every hair on the back of her neck stood up. Someone had been in her room. Someone had been watching her inside her room. And now they knew she was aware of them. The days that followed were filled with dread. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was being followed. Her every move seemed to be observed. She went to class with the constant feeling that someone was just behind her, in the shadows. Even in the cafeteria, she could feel eyes on her. But when she looked, no one was there. And then, it happened again. One night, as she was brushing her teeth, the lights flickered. The mirror before her showed only her reflection. But when she looked over her shoulder, the shadows in her room seemed to shift. A figure was standing just behind her, so faint she could barely make it out. That night, Sarah couldn't take it anymore. She locked her door, bolted the windows, and waited. The pacing began again, but this time, it was different. It wasn't outside her door. It was inside the room. Step by step, the sound grew closer until she felt the breath on her neck. The figure was right there, behind her, in the room. She turned, and in that instant, she saw him. A man, pale and gaunt, standing just inches away. His eyes, hollow and dark, locked onto hers with an empty, soul-sucking stare. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, he was gone.